Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Tapas Project Shaala's third day of the conference. It gives me great pleasure to be hosting a wonderful panel discussion today with panelists who are jurors on the Jaga project that is initiated by Tapas. Just before I bring the panelists on, I wanted to give you a little bit information about what the Jaga initiative is. At Tapas, as all of you might be aware, we ensure that the children's voice is heard. It's something that drives us every day. So when it came time to construct our own campus, we believed that it had to reflect what the children's dreams, aspirations, and their desires were. And so we decided to include children's voice in the way our campus was designed, and that's where the idea of the Jaga initiative came about. Now, in order to get the voice of children, we said, why limit it to just the tapas learners? We said, let's extend it to the whole country. And so this small thought became such a big movement where we had about 225 students from across India, that is from Varanasi, Nagpur, Pune, Bangalore, Mumbai, all of them participating in this initiative. They submitted their ideas. Now, once the ideas were submitted in a raw form, we had a couple of master classes where students understood what it means to design a campus. Based on that, they refined their designs and submitted their ideas once again. Now, the eminent panel of jurors that we have for the Jaga project went through these ideas and recognized some of them which could be translated into actual design. And presently, we are in the process of getting those ideas translated into designs by architects. Once that is ready, the Jaga initiative will be published as a book for any school leader to go through in order to transform their entire school campus. So that's the Jaga initiative. And today, I'm very, very fortunate that some of the jurors from our panel have joined today for this panel discussion to be talking about their experience with Jaga, as well as their thoughts on how children's voices can reach and continue to reach us going forward as well. So, first of all, I'd like to extend my welcome to Mr. Francis Joseph. Francis Joseph is the Executive Director of GEMS Education India. He's also the director of SLN School Leaders Network Foundation. He works both in public and private education space in school operations, education policies, strategy, and collaborative efforts. Francis has more than 30 years of extensive experience in managing K-12 schools in India and Middle East, where he started his career as a teacher in 1990. In fact, this little introduction does absolutely no justice to the kind of work that he does. Francis, sir, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for giving a great start on a Sunday.
Our next panelist today is Dr. Tirka Vedanti. She is the president of Yayasan Kulkul, that is the Green School Bali, Indonesia. She is the rector or the chancellor at University Ngurah Rai University, again in Bali, Indonesia. She believes that she believes that education is the best way to ensure that there is change in children's lives. She believes in a simple way of life, thinking as well as keeping to learn and study. She's never late for being at school, so she says that never give up. She has worked in various fields of hospitality in Bali, international handicrafts, jewelry manufacturing, and she has now reached education at local, national, and at global levels. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome you, Dr. Vedanti, to our panel discussion. And we were just envious of the background that Dr. Vedanti is in.
My real school.
The rice paddy fields look absolutely beautiful, Dr. Vedanti.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce you to Devi Shobha. She has served in corporate tech world as a program manager for over 12 years. She quit her corporate career to found Kidskinta, which is a science and culture blog for discerning parents and educators. Over the years, Kidskinta has grown to be recognized as one of the top 10 parenting platforms in India. Through Kidskinta, she supports advocacy initiatives for child rights and inclusive education and has officially partnered with UNESCO, New Delhi office, and the United Nations MGIEP program. She supports conscious consumerism for children and therefore advocates for conscious living for parents. She collaborates with brands on conscious brand to market communication and amplifying leadership voices through her platform, Kidskinta. A very, very warm welcome to you, Devi Shobha. Next, we have Sarvesh Srinivasan. He is an architect by degree and currently a school administrator in his capacity of executive director at GARE Foundation. He completed his bachelor's in architecture from RV School of Architecture, Bangalore, after which he began a private practice along with his wife and executed a wide range of projects. His interest lies in multifunctional spaces and practical approach to designing spaces. His time at Auroville influenced his choice of materials, and he prefers to utilize the best that is available in close proximity to the site. We look forward to his participation in this panel discussion. A very warm welcome, Sarvesh.
Thank you, everybody.
Hello. So we have this wonderful, illustrious panel, and I'm so excited to be having this conversation with all of you. So, and we have a few questions, and if the any of the viewers have questions, you can type it out in the comment section, and it will reach the panelists, and we'll make sure that your questions are answered. Right. I think my first question is, Francis, what does democratization of education really mean to you? What does it signify to you?
So I think for me, I think as a student when I was in school, right, I relate to that experience. And for me, every stakeholder in the school, be it a student or a teacher or a parent, should be on par, right? In my view, no school can have one person superior over the other, right? Which gives a voice to every single stakeholder. For me, every single stakeholder should have a voice, and because they are all here together to make a difference in the child's education, right? It's not just the responsibility of the teacher; it's also a responsibility of the parent, and it's also the responsibility of the learner to be responsible and accountable for their learning. So I think for me, the most important thing is equity, right? That's my quick response.
Thank you for that, and I think that's very clearly and very easily understandable by everybody. Like you said, accountability and equity equals democratization. So that's really nice. And so that brings me to you, Dr. Vedanti. Do you think that it's truly possible to have democratic voices of children reaching the space design as well? Do you think it's possible to convert these voices into actual space design? Dr. Vedanti, I hope we're audible.
Hello. Hello. Yes.
Hi. So I was asking you, if do you think that these voices of children that we have captured is actually translatable into actual design at schools?
Okay. So I'm hello, can you hear me? I'm so sorry. The network. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, Dr. Vedanti, please go on.
Okay, so talking about the voice of the children, and through this competition, through this Jaga project, I'm very interested in seeing to all of the students' ideas, and some ideas that I pick up that they explained that they wanted the school to have an open field, for example, a meadow with maintained garden, open air, and some pets. So that's why I'm in the middle of the rice paddies at the moment. And the main ideas are to not restrict the education in school only to happen inside the classrooms. Everywhere are the schools. The open field and pets will also help stimulate students' curiosity while at the same time help them to calm their minds. And these ideas is aligned with what we believe in Green School Bali, where learning activities can happen anywhere. And in Green School Bali, we also have open areas such as school gardens for every grade and school pets such as rabbits, as this year is rabbits of the year, chickens, cows, and pigs for the same reason as the participant, which is providing open space that taught them various knowledge for the student to have more learning activities that leads to a more creative education. I think that is to start with, Miss Pretty. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vedanti, for sharing that. Absolutely. And I think Green School is actually, if any of you get a chance, you should visit it because the Green School Valley has no walls. And it's just beautiful to be in that space which has no walls, right? It's a very circular bamboo structure. And so uh, I think, Dr. Vedanti, what you say is that it is possible. We can definitely translate children's voices into actual design because there are live examples in front of us. So, my next question is to you, Sarvesh. Um, we've done this whole exercise, right? But do you think it's really important to take students' feedback into account when designing the school campus? And what do you see as the benefits of something like this?
Like as you shared in the beginning, that your vision of Tapas is to involve children's voice wherever possible. So fundamentally, children are going to be using the space of the building, school building that you're going to be putting up. And if we do not take into account what they perceive and what they feel is the need for them to be able to be at their best or for them to explore, it'll be kind of unjust because at the end they're the true users of the space and we do not take any input from them. And I would say also say ideally also take input from children who have passed out of school, so they've gone through the entire experience, and then when they look back, they'll be like, okay, I should have had this, I should have done that. So we need to look at these two perspectives, especially since most of the designers that you directly go to an architect and talk, they will be talking about their experience, which might be a generation or two later than the current generation. So there will not be any connect to what is actually at the moment the requirement. So 100% I do feel that there is a need for us to do this initiative where we involve children and to help us also step out of the box and explore what is the possibility, because when you do reach out to children, you get the, let's say, the most innocent, most basic kind of ideas, out of the box ideas, which when adults we kind of hold ourselves back and look at practicality, look at finances, look at lots of things. So you get the truest nature notion of ideas that can be worked upon and continue to inspire us to take it to the next level. So yeah, 100% I feel that we have to do it. Not it's whether it's a choice, but I think it should be 100% part of any design project involving children.
Brilliant. I think that's a great takeaway for that. Uh, it should be the norm. It's not just an exception. It should be the norm. I like that idea. My next question is to you, Devi Shubha, that of the entries that you went through, can you give us some thoughts on what entries really piqued your interest and what did you think about the overall responses that you saw?
Yeah. First of all, Preeti, thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. And thank you for initiating such a wonderful project like Jaga. And thank you for putting me on the panel of such, eminent educationalists who have done such great work in the field and have really impacting people at the ground level, right? It's a great privilege to be on this panel. So thank you very much for that. Coming to your question on the ideas themselves, right? So what I found the primary quality of the ideas is that they came from children who really felt the need for them, right? They, like Mr. Sarvesh said just now, it is something that is used by them like for about 8 hours a day. The space is being used by them, right? And when they feel that this is missing, or when they have put those ideas, of course they are just words, okay, but the feeling behind them, it was so evident, right? It just sprang to me from the screen, the emotion behind it, the way the children, for example, some of the ideas I picked were around something what Miss Vidanti has said, right? Like the open space, or caring for pets, right? These are beautiful ideas and very, very practical, right? It's not so difficult to implement also. Now, having a pet, when a child says, I want a pet in the classroom, can you just, if you dig a little deeper, just scratch the surface, if you just go to the emotion behind that thought, it's just that the child wants the company of somebody who they can relate to, who they can care for the entire day, who they can spend time, that they enjoy the company of, they want the pleasure of the company, company of somebody. I'm hearing an echo. Are you able to?
Your voice is clear.
Okay, great. So some of these ideas, right? One was the pet idea, which really jumped at me. The other was creative corner, right? I always tell parents also, and I face this as a parent of young children myself. My children are slightly grown up now, just like yours, Preeti now. But for young children, we always have this thing, right? When, of course, even for older children, there's so much scheduled activity. There is no time for them to decompress. Even summers are packed. The activity after activity, even so-called creative activities, are just like, how can you be creative in 45 minutes and then shut off? You can't do that, right? So a creative corner has to be instinctive, has to be spontaneous. So this creative corner idea that came from some child, like I think it came from a child called Ahana. I really loved it because I felt that Ahana has really felt the need to draw in the middle of a probably science class or a social class or a math class, and she didn't find that avenue for herself. So she just kind of really wished that she had a corner where she could just go and put her ideas down on paper. That is something that the children will really, really enjoy, and they will look forward to school with that simple thing, so that. And then, of course, peer teaching. uh, I mean, all of us, all the panelists here are great educationalists themselves, who have spent so many years teaching children on the ground, interacting with them. And I'm sure, and uh, I'm just saying this because there is research coming from the West that peer learning is the best form of teaching. Okay, but we have seen it ourselves practically, even though it doesn't exist in journal papers as of now in India. We see that every day, right? When children sit in a group, the way they receive ideas from their peers is very different from the way they receive ideas from adults, or somebody other than their peer group, right? So peer learning is a no brainer, and the fact that some child had to put it there is, speaks volumes of where we are, right? So yeah, I mean, some of them are great practical ideas, and I picked those ideas that were obviously, I mean, they were very obviously staring me in the face, talking about their benefits, in fact screaming about the benefits they would give. And the also another criterion for me was to see the emotion behind it, like what the child has felt, right? So that was my
Thank you so
system
much.
for evaluation. Yeah.
Your passion, your emotion was very strong, and thank you for sharing that with all of us. In fact,
Yeah.
I'd like to share with you that over 75% of the responses was about having better access to nature and nature based activities. So I think children intuitively know that they're supposed to be in nature. and we have forgotten that, and we are keeping them in rooms, right? So I think that is a big wake up call for all of us, and of course all this will get published very soon. So my next question is to you, Francis. So this particular initiative was about children's voice in the space design, in the campus design. Do you think it's possible to also have children's voice reflected in pedagogy, in curriculum, even in the way the school is run? Do you think it's possible to have all of that?
So I think, like I earlier mentioned, listening to children and every learner is very, very important, right? Why do we have such a rigid system, right? And if we continue having a rigid system and do not introduce flexibility and convenience to every stakeholder, people will leave the system, right? So we are at a stage where for us to sustain the current model, we need to bring in flexibility, we need to bring in voices and choices to the student and every learner. For me, a learner is also a parent, right? When a parent comes to a school, they are also learning, right, in that whole journey. So yes, it's of course you. This project was more on infrastructure, which is just one part of it, a very very, in my view, a small part of it. Right. The larger part is how does the life inside the school, how all people come together and engage in learning, and for which children are still nailed to the classroom bench. We need to bring them out and give them a voice to not just share. I mean, Devi Shobha almost picked up all our ideas. So she was on the dot, right? Because when you speak about peer learning, right? Do us as teachers encourage peer learning? Because when I was a child, I remember my mother used to always tell me that better find the best friends, right? There was a reason, right? She will actually choose the right friends for me. If I talk to so much to some students, they'll say, "Don't talk to that child. Talk to this child." So it used to be in our system, right? Now we call it peer learning. So I think every area, even the teachers need help, right? There will be a time when students will also contribute to the development of teachers. And it's not far away. It's already happening in different parts because they are also a little bit more updated. They know a little bit, because they don't have a sort of a fear to think about things, right? Which is there in adults like us. Which was very evident when I saw the response also, because I saw them, they were touching pedagogy quite clearly, right? It was not about design. There was a deeper meaning to every time they said something. It is our capability to see that, right? Like Devi linked it to peer learning, she linked it to different types of learning. It is so important. Collaboration, they touched on collaboration, they touched on belongingness, they built on community building. This is all linked to pedagogy. So I think as educators, we have to just loosen ourselves, allow that the real freedom. I always call it the education system, specifically in India, needs a freedom struggle. It's a freedom struggle journey for us. I am really hoping that NEP becomes that kind of movement, brings freedom struggle and gives freedom to every learner in the school. So I totally agree with you.
I love that idea of a freedom struggle for education in India. I think that has to be the name of the next movement that we all take up together. I absolutely agree with you, and I'm just so happy you brought up that children's voice should be there even well development of the teachers or the facilitators, because at Tapas we already follow that. So even during the recruitment process, after every presentation or a demonstration of a candidate, the children give feedback as to whether they think that person is appropriately suitable for their classroom or not. We also have the appraisal system where children are answering just 3 questions about each of the people who are affecting their life. So we have something called as the circle of influence, in which, say, if it's the facilitator circle of influence will have the children, will have the academic head or the manager that they are reporting to, the helpers in the classroom who are also directly influencing that person. So all these people give feedback. So children's voice is something that you will hear loud and clear at Tapas. So I'm just very excited that you brought up the things that we're already doing.
Just
So
just want to add, there is one Anand Krishna Swami was written on Facebook Live. He has mentioned student agency is indispensable in curriculum design. It is so true, right? Because curriculum design, it is so. We sometimes design thinking as adults,
yes,
right? We feel that this is what our children should learn. That's the moment we actually kill everything, right?
yes,
So I think we need to open up, and children know what is good for them. We think they don't know what is the future, right? We think only we know, right? And that is the rigidness I was talking about,
yes.
right? Which we should become children, in short.
Yes, yes. We should let them lead. And I think what you mentioned about having that respect for the children really means that being able to listen to them. It's about giving them that voice and actually following through on that. Absolutely. Thank you, Anand Krishnaswamy, for sharing that thought with us. My next question is to you, Dr. Vedanti. More than a question, it's a request. If you can tell us a little bit more about the Green School Bali, because I believe that it's an inspirational space and we would all love to know more about it.
Okay, I heard a great practical idea and also choice versus voice here. And also I heard about freedom education struggle in India. Well, actually Indonesia is following India's education. Yes, we learn from all of you. So in terms of the giving feedbacks, well, feedback is very important, and what work, what does not work, and we let children be becoming children, and what work, what doesn't not work after seeing the current situation. And for example, in green school, they give us feedback. They give the management feedback about the female students, give feedback to develop their toilet for the moon, for the females or for the girls every month. So that's why now in every toilet, so we have a kind of for the special for the female needed, like that. So this is about the what is the rationale, and what is about the reason why they are giving feedback. Actually, we are all, we let them choose and decide. However, in this process, teachers know how to do, how the border is. Example, teacher will ask the student whether they want to go to library for reading the book, for example, or going outside the class somewhere. But the strategy, the goal is reading books. And the teachers maybe ask the student, raise your hand if you want to go to the library. And the majority decision will be choose for making a decision. I think so that is a kind of practical thing in green school, is day to day happening. Over to you, Miss Pretty, and all.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think just the atmosphere at Green School Bali, if you get a chance to visit again, offers that space for choice, offers that space for freedom. Right? I think that's something that's very beautiful at the Green School Bali, because it's the culture that they have built there in order to offer this kind of a choice and voice for children. Right? Um, I see there's another comment. I'm going to post that on screen for everybody to see. This is again from Mr. Anand Krishnaswamy. He says that I think none of us know what the future holds. Hence, we should include the learner's perspective and use it as a substrate to ensure some structured learning. The adults bring in structure, reflection, foreshadowing, and the child brings in feeling, instinctiveness, and now. Thank you for sharing that. That's very wise words indeed. So I think my next question is to all of you, and we'll take turns answering this. I think it's time we understand how children's voice can be sustained over a period of time, right? How can we make sure that there is a format, there is a structure, there's a system that we are creating in order to ensure that children's voice is reaching to all the stakeholders? So, since you're in the media, Devi Shobha, I'd like to begin with you for this particular question.
Can you say the question again?
How
I
can we
lost it.
Sure. How can we ensure that there is a continuity in children's voice? There is a system or a structure in place which ensures that the voice is reaching out to the rest of the stakeholders. Do you have some thoughts on how we can make that possible?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, if we were to talk about stakeholders, right? Who are the stakeholders? The primary stakeholder is the child themselves, right? So, from the child, the branches of all other stakeholders, that is how we have to think about it. Right now we are thinking the opposite, right? The child should be at the middle, but we are putting ourselves at the middle. That shouldn't be the case, right? When the child is in the middle, then the branches of all the other stakeholders will come out naturally and correctly on their own without any effort. So, when the child is at the center, the teacher, the parent, right, and then the environment, like Mr. Francis very beautifully talked about school climate and culture. Culture is very important in the school, right? So this culture doesn't build uh, when we suppress the most important voice, that is of the students. So when we drive like we do in most schools now, when the voice or the purpose is only driven by display boards, after the 10th exams, then obviously the school culture is not very healthy. I mean, that's a no brainer, right? But we still are compelled by so many other external factors, right? So the way to answer your question, the way to drive these voices from the students is to make sure that we keep updating our stakeholder list and see that it is always prioritized properly. If we keep doing that, right, probably every month or every quarter, and see if the voices have reached the stakeholders in order,
Hmm.
then I think the problem is mostly solved, right?
Thank you for sharing that. Francis, sir, your thoughts?
So I think, like I mentioned, everyone has to be on par, right? It's all in our minds. So when a child comes with an idea, usually we think, oh, he's a child, he's a student. That's our problem, right? So I think the moment a child comes, if I start thinking that, no, I think I want to hear him and he's on par, he's like me, then probably we'll start up building a culture of hearing these voices. Till the
Right.
time we think that they are inferior and we are superior, that problem will remain. And that's our bigger problem in the system. Of course, I have seen some schools, the moment a child comes, I mean, in terms of access, sometimes I feel that principals, children are very fearful to go to a principal's room. Why?
Right.
That means they're not, that system is not on par, right? They don't have a voice, and then a principal comes out and says that no, everyone has got a voice. No, I mean, the child is scared to come to your cabin to express something. So I'm saying it has to, we have to totally loosen up,
Yes.
right? And never feel that they know less and we know more, or we know less or they know more. That balance is very, very crucial. That's my thought.
Absolutely. And I think what you said is so true that going to the principal's room is something where it's treated as a threat to the child. Do you want to go to principal's room? So that's how it is treated. And so we are creating those barriers ourselves. I saw this very beautiful practice when I visited Riverside, Ahmedabad. And I think Kiran Bir Sethi, who's the founder of Riverside, she makes it a point that she doesn't have an office space that she sits in. It's in the middle of the quadrangle that she sits and works out of, so that children have access to her at all times. And I think this kind of connected to what you said, Francis sir, and I wanted to just point that out. The more barriers we break between children and the other stakeholders, I think that's how much louder the children's voice will get, right? Um, okay, Sarvesh, your thoughts next, please.
Yes, so definitely, I was going to share something similar to what Mr. Francis shared. Primarily on we need to ensure that barriers between children and staff and let's say coordinators and principal should be kind of dissolved to ensure that children themselves are confident to come up and share and talk about their experiences. That is the only way where we can ensure the communication is there and we hear the children's voice. If these barriers are up saying, okay, I am the vice principal or I am the coordinator, you can't talk to me or you can't approach me. Children's voice is very, very important, and which will have a lot of input, will not be heard by the right people. So it's those people who are in leadership positions that have to ensure that they are more accessible, that children feel comfortable to come up and share, like how you just shared about what happened at Riverside. Everyone needs to have some practice in the similar way, at least once a week or once a month. They are accessible. The children build that comfort level to be able to come up and share thoughts, ideas, or even grievances, or even suggestions of what can be done. Because there's no better place to get feedback to make improvements than the children themselves who are experiencing the system. So yeah, that's primarily
I
what I want to
just,
share.
I just, Kriti, I just want to add to Sarvesh.
Sure,
Very, very important that I mean, every person in the system should have that kind of freedom. It can't happen that just when the school owner comes, he's very open to everyone, and the teachers are tight. So it can't happen that even a security guard in a school should have the freedom to go and say, "Ma'am, I think this is not good, pertaining to his job or the safety of the school. This is not good." He can go right to the owner, to the principal, to a teacher. That freedom. So it cannot be individual centric. That's why it has to be embedded so well that everyone should have that openness. The moment you look at someone, it should be like questions coming on you. This I just want to
Yeah,
add that.
and
Yeah,
as long as
So
everyone understands the intent behind why are they there in that system, they know the reason behind it. Everyone gets
yeah,
aligned automatically. But if everyone is
yeah,
just
yeah.
doing it for the sake of doing it, we kind of lose out. So, and
mm.
building that culture is 100% a necessity.
I think we are going into great leadership lessons here. This is brilliant stuff. Yes, Devi Shobha, please share.
Yeah, I just had one more thing that I wanted to add. I think one of the anchors to bring this culture, right, open culture into the feedback loop of the school itself is to use the PTAs very effectively. Right now, in most schools, PTAs are just events, for lack of a better word, where the parent and the teacher collectively bash the child. Okay, and it happens. I've seen it, in most PTAs. That is what happens, because they have the mark sheet in their hands, they have the papers, and both of them are just either launch into an advice session. Okay, you can do so much better, you're not studying, you're not concentrating, this and that. And the child is obviously just sitting there silently or standing there silently, even worse, just listening to both of them, bash him or her. And then after this, right, after this session, how do you expect the child to go back and give some open feedback to anybody at all? Either the teacher, so you leave it, even the parent, they cannot go and talk, right? How will they even facilitate such a thing? So I'm of the opinion that, these PTA should be anchor events where this feedback system can be encouraged and put in place very effectively.
Very well
Maybe,
said. I think
yeah.
bringing
Okay.
in parents into the entire conversation is very important. After we listen to Dr. Vedanti, there is one comment from Mr. Anand which I'd like to go to. Dr. Vedanti, please share your thoughts.
Okay, so maybe I would like to share about the participant idea actually is to have a meditation corner in the school for the students to do meditation and address their mental health. And the background of the idea is that teenagers tend to face more mental health issues that will be better addressed if they had skills to manage their mind, which can be trained through meditation. Maybe to us adult, maybe, oh, this is something that very very hard to manage with, but actually this very smart feedback is very cute. We implement this in our school in Green School Bali, aware with the issue and already apply this idea as a solution. This a very very simple solution. We have our mindful subject, that the mindful minutes every day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The whole community at the school stop their activities and have a mindfulness for a few seconds.
Okay, that's
So
very
this is
nice.
something that big thing with a very simple solution. Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Udan. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sarvesh, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what Dr. Vedanti shared about mental health, because one of the submissions I received that I had selected as my top three was an idea on including mental health into the school design. So, and this was coming from, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a 10th grader. So children are seeing the need to address it as a school as well, which is
Mm.
again comes back to the whole point of involving children. So yeah, they themselves are seeing the need, and definitely we need to cater to the same.
Yes, in fact, just about the mental health, one of the entries that I had chosen was about the mental health of the teachers. So the children had given a suggestion that teachers need to have a space for themselves where they calm down, where they are restful, etc., so that that mental health helps. I was mind blown, like how they're not thinking just about themselves; they're thinking of the school as a whole, and that was a great takeaway for me. I just wanted to bring up this. Yes,
Just I
Francis.
want to add, children are like recording machines, right? They record everything, right? And they know they look for role models, right? So it is very, very important that whatever, so we think sometimes the children don't see. For example, pre-primary children, we feel that what are they seeing? But actually they capture everything and go and tell everything to their parents in the evening. So that's where we underestimate them, you know?
And
Yeah.
on that note, parents also know that children come to the school and talk all about what they've seen at home. So make sure you don't share your ATM passwords with them. In and that was on a lighter note. There is a comment from Mr. Anand about the parents and the family being a stakeholder, very important stakeholder, and then how thankfully NEP 2020 addresses that. So that's kind of all the time that we have for this session. And I just like to ask the panel for parting thoughts. How can we keep these conversations going? So very quickly, I'd like to begin with Francis, sir. How can we keep the conversation going? Parting thoughts, please.
I think it's very important that as a community we gather together and see what are the areas and help schools to build voices. Right? They need a lot of help. It's not that educators in schools are doing, keeping the voices away. Right? We need to build and extend this a little bit more and help and back and mentor and handhold these schools to on what kind of strategies they should adopt which will enable and amplify the student voice. We need to help them as a community.
That's great thoughts. I think that's one of the sections that we want to address in the Jaga Initiative book that's coming out. What could be some of the strategies for making that voice heard? Coming to Devi Shobha.
Yeah. Uh, I think one of the gaps that we have in our education system today is that teachers do not have a platform to share. It's like each of the schools is working in a isolated silo in themselves, right? So if there is a way for teachers to communicate, as a community, as a larger community that has such great impact on the society, if they recognize themselves as great stakeholders of society themselves, and come up to give voices to themselves, right? And build a platform to share between themselves. I think it'll accelerate the voices in a big way.
That's a great idea. And if any edtech company is listening in, here's a business idea for you. Right? Thank you for sharing that, Dinesh. Super. Uh, Sarvesh, your thoughts, please.
So yeah, I believe platforms like this is very key to ensure that there is communication between schools, institutions, leaders, teachers, because most, like how Devi Shobha ma'am was just sharing, everyone's in their own individual silos, and everyone's got their plates full, and it's very easy to get lost in it. But it's events like this, it's platforms like this that ensure that there is a connect and there is sharing of best practices, there is sharing of challenges that are faced, that we can learn from each other. We don't all have to reinvent the wheel on our own. We can just share as per what we've learned and build upon that. So it definitely, just we need to consciously be able to put ourselves out there and seek out platforms like this or encourage platforms like this for sharing and building of a community. So especially with technology these days, it's becoming much more easier than it was maybe, let's say, 5-10 years ago. So yeah.
Yes. Thank you. I think leveraging technology for ensuring that this communication goes on is a great suggestion. So thank you for that, Sarvesh. Dr. Vidanti, your parting thoughts, please.
Okay. So how to be listen among the stakeholder, and how we dedicate the community, so our communication is always connecting. And in practical, we here in Green School Bali main, maintain, okay, manage the community with the Facebook page. Beside of the assembly, we involve all the parents. Assembly like at least once a month. And also we maintain the students newspaper and also the school newsletter. I think this will be keeping our relationship, keeping our communication better and better. Thank you.
Great idea. I think a newspaper, which is the students bringing out something where they are putting their thoughts and their ideas, will be a very strong voice which cannot be ignored. So it's a great idea. Thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Vedanti. That's all the time that we have for today. And I think this conversation has sparked off quite a lot of thoughts, ideas, suggestions. I'm hoping that, of course, this is not an in-depth way of in-depth communication of how the plan can be, but it is the beginning of one, and I love it when a plan comes together. So really very happy that all of you could make it for this panel discussion. I'm very thankful that on a Sunday you were able to take out time for this important discussion. I'm looking forward to interacting with all of you, keeping this conversation going in many ways. So thank you once again, everybody.
And we look
Thank
forward to
you. Thank
welcome
you.
you all in Bali.
Please, we'll love
Definitely,
to.
definitely. Will.
For
Yeah.
sure. Now that
Thank
you've invited us, we all want to come there, Dr. Vedanti.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Good
bye
night.
for now.
Bye
Good
bye.
day.
Bye bye.
Have a good Sunday.